to San Francisco. Then I had my
Mhm.
daughter charter an airplane for me to get me from San Francisco to
Oh my
L.A.
gosh, there's
and
so many of yours.
because it wanted the judge made it clear that he was going to pull my passport if I was late or missed any appointment, any court appearance.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, I did arrive the next day on time, but I had two tickets, and I was panicking because and they put me up in a hotel, a really nice hotel near the airport in Beijing. They paid for that, but I couldn't sleep because I was afraid I would oversleep and still miss the flight. So I just stayed up all night and I slept on the plane coming back. So
Got it. Got it. Okay. All right. So yeah, just comedy of errors. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. This was not an easy feat to continue to take care of your family, right? Because that was the reality. You had commitments in China, for the Olympics of the restaurants you were building. You were working, navigating, fight, and so let's just take a look at the attorney for a second. So we're looking at Harlan Brown. We're looking at the judge, Judge Light, and clearly, Judge Light knows your case. Clearly, once again, he's saying to Lorianne Jones that, hey, the only thing that would, put this guy in jail or he'd be guilty of is not coming back from China, right? So clearly, they don't want you to be in Lightfoot's court, and clearly you've got Patricia Titus who's going on vacation and needs to get this case taken care of. So they conveniently move you over to a following Monday uh, 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 appointment with another judge who doesn't even really know your case. He gets this huge
he had no
file.
idea.
He has no idea. And now Lightfoot doesn't have the opportunity to hold your attorney, Harlan Braun, accountable for not having all the information, the investigative information he should have to prove your innocence. This is nuts.
That he said he was working on for almost a year, and it would have come out that he was lied to the court for over a year, and I'm positive he would have been severely sanctioned by the court because we could, with what he did, we could have gone to trial a year earlier, but he was just stringing me along for whatever reason. I haven't figured that out. But there is
Stringing
one
your
other thing that
pocketbook along.
you need to know about one other thing with Patricia Titus, and you can figure it out. When she knew that I was working building these restaurants in China, Patricia Titus and Laurie Jones went out to family restaurants they like in Orange County. They were the parent company uh, that awarded me the deal to build the Carol's restaurants in China. She went out them to try to derail that. She told them, "Are you aware that Don Bohana has been charged with murder?"
Whoa.
And I had not. They had read about it, but we never discussed it. They read about it in the Times, but that didn't uh, upset them. I told them when I was first indicted. I told them, I said, "But this is not me." And I explained to them, and so they knew about this, but she took it upon herself to try to smear me more with a major undertaking I was doing in China. Matter of fact, Leslie Light, called the United States Embassy in Beijing and specifically asked them. This was before getting my passport back. He said, "How central is Mr. Bohana to this project?" And they responded. I didn't wasn't on the other line, but what I understand, they told me he's quite central because he has been the driving force in how we're going to go and build this and make it affordable for people coming in from the U.S. for the Olympics. And so that's what made him prompt him to give me my passport back. But Titus then tried to derail that even by going and telling these salacious things about me were all untrue, and they didn't buy it. But that just shows how the
Yeah.
length of corruption that these people were under.
Yeah, and again, Patricia Titus was the deputy defense attorney. So they are all complicit. So Don, here we are. Here we are. It's been now, are we looking at 30 years from that point? Has it been about 30
Hmm.
years from that point?
Right.
Where are all of these people today? Are they still practicing? Are they still, because they built their careers off of your imprisonment. Where are they?
Right.
Where are they today, Don?
Well,
Are they still in positions of
I
power and
but
authority?
I'm sure that most of them are retired, but those with law license are still somehow practicing law. And like I would presume, Titus is doing little law work, going on making speeches, and I would say Lori Jones is still practicing law. Uh, Posey is still acting like a pathologist. Harlan Brown is still practicing law. Uh, we know what Governor Newsom's doing. We know that uh, Steve Cooley is practicing law. Jackie Lacey's still practicing law. Uh, George Gascon just was running for election. He's still out there. Uh, and Gil Garcetti, I would presume he's retired, and I know his son was the mayor of Los Angeles for a minute. And so all these people have still got their hands in the government somehow, sucking money unwarranted from our government. But fortunately, none of them, to my knowledge, have died yet. And I'm looking forward to seeing them face to face and being able to tell them what they did and ask them why.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, I'll tell you what, it is clear, I think, to both Ron and I that 25 years in prison for you, having all of this evidence, having people on the outside, your amazing family who has been an incredible support to you, friends, community members, people that knew you were innocent, you would direct them to give them that work to make sure you could gather all the information. Clearly, your 25 years in prison was well spent. Not, don't get me wrong. What I mean is, you made the most of every opportunity because you knew there would be a time that you would hold every single one of these people accountable. So, Don, please tell Ron, our audience, myself, what got you through those 25 years?
Oh, what really got me through my faith in God and faith in the Bible. I read the Bible twice. Would I would look at Second Corinthians verses 4 and 5, where uh, we pushed into unenviable ways, but you never gave up. You have to keep pushing when they make it the toughest on you. You keep fighting. I remember I would read about Job, how Job, everything was taken away from Job, his family, his wife, his donkeys and barns and everything. But he never once cursed God, and I never once blamed God for what happened. I just kept fighting and I know that one day I would prevail. I also had in my mind that my belief in God, would not allow an innocent man to just die in prison. And even though I had a stroke, a severe stroke, I recovered from it, and I feel good. I have a little bit of limp, but my mind is just as sharp as it was when I was in college. And so I think my faith in God has really kept me going. And also, I want to do this where no one else, this will never happen to anyone else. I want to bring the truth out of how corrupt the criminal justice system. I think maybe that's why God has me in this spot today because I can articulate what happened. I can name dates, names, and I'm not afraid to do it. And these people need to be held accountable. I also would like to see our federal government come in and look at the Los Angeles County total criminal justice system. It's just not the district attorney's office. It's the sheriff's department. It's the coroner's department. Who would hire Dr. Posey as a forensic pathologist with no training? Who would allow him to do a Y cut on a body? What country or who would allow someone that ill qualified to have the opportunity to put someone in prison for the rest of their life? Who would allow someone like Patricia Titus to pay off people to get a conviction to enhance your career? Who would do that? And I'm glad I'm here to be able to bring this to the forefront, and I will preach this to my last breath. I don't want this to happen to any American citizen, nowhere, no matter where. LA, Washington, New York, Chicago, Alabama, Mississippi, makes no difference. It's all wrong if it's wrong.
Yes, Don, that is so incredibly moving. I want to share the scriptures with you. Hang on one second. I want to touch on the scriptures that Don pointed out. Don, 2 Corinthians 4:5, and it's present weakness and resurrection life. It says, therefore, since through God's mercy we have this ministry, we do not lose heart. Rather, we have renounced secret and shameful ways. We do not use deception, nor do we distort the word of God. On the contrary, by setting forth the truth plainly, we commend ourselves to everyone's conscience in the sight of God. And if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers, so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. For what we preach is not ourselves, but Jesus Christ as Lord, and ourselves as your servants for Jesus' sake. For God, who said, let light shine out of darkness, made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Jesus. Wow. Powerful, powerful scripture. Ron.
Thank you for reading that. I look at Don, and he exudes a very kind of a paternalistic presence about him. And I was wondering about the men that you met in prison. Did you mentor some of them? Did they confide in you about their unfair trials? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I met many younger kids, and I became like a father figure. They would confide in me on things that they would probably don't want to ask their dad or whatever. I believe I saved a lot of them from coming back into prison because I would tell them that there's other ways. I did a lot of teaching, especially when guys are trying to pass a GED. I remember I had about 3 or 4 guys who were taking the GED, and it was a competition that who would get the highest score. And these guys were just interested. In other words, there's a lot of people don't understand. Just because a person goes to prison or goes to jail or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad person. It means that somewhere someone hasn't taken the time to listen, to talk to him, and find out what makes him tick. But I enjoyed my interaction with the younger guys, and they seem to get along and like me because I would even though I was older, I would play football with them. I would play tackle football. It didn't make any difference. I was just one of the guys. And so I blended in really well, but I knew how to stay away from the gang mentality. And again, there are a lot of people that are in prison, and in prison even because of gang affiliation, who, if they had some kind of leadership, would do very well. But we're in California so intense on punishment and not realizing there's another way. I was reading where a prison, I'm not sure, I think it was in Tennessee, has started teaching inmates to play golf. Now that sounds, you say, well, that sounds way out. No, if you get an inmate, say, if they earn a privilege to play golf, and you teach them play golf, a lot of things, as you know, in business, you talk a lot on the golf course, and you do a lot of business deals on the golf course. There's another way. It's a competition. These guys like competition. And so we have to look at our criminal justice system in an entirely different way than lock them up, throw away the key. That doesn't get it anymore. Yes, I enjoyed working with the guys. And again, and if they were doing nonsense, there's some guys in there going to smoke, going to use drugs, going to do that. But they would never want to do this around me. If Bohana comes around, he's going to put up with that nonsense, So I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, Don, there's a story that you shared with me, and Ron, this is probably one of the funniest things that Don has shared. Don, it wasn't easy. Whenever
I
somebody,
know what you're going to share.
yeah. Whenever somebody goes into prison or they're getting ready to go into prison, I mean, we've just heard horrific stories. Okay. And, here's Don already, his first short window of being in prison. You start getting bullied right off the bat. Will you share that story with us of the moment that you were bullied and you really set the precedence for what was ahead?
Yeah. I remember getting my first day at Chuckawalla. That's the first prison they sent me to. I remember I was in B3, and didn't know anyone in prison at all. I went outside after I got in my bunk and stuff. I went outside, and I was standing near the wall, and three or four guys came up to me and asked, "Where are you from?" And I said, from LA, Los Angeles, and then they said, "Well, who you run?" I said, "I don't run with anybody. I'm just, just here and just got here." And there's one guy says to me, he says, he didn't like the way I talked proper. That's what it was. And he said, "You talk too proper." I said, "Well, this is the way I was raised. This is where I am." Then I could see this was going to get out of hand. And he said, "Who do you run with?" I said, "I don't run with anybody. Do you understand that?" I said, "Why don't you just leave me alone, go on, and I don't want to be bothered." I could see that wasn't going to get anywhere. And I realized that the only way you get any respect in prison is you're going to have to beat somebody up. So I looked around where the guards were over, they called that on the wall there near the program office. And this guy kept on, because he kind of edging me on or something. And I just said, "Well, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm going to just knock the hell out this guy." And so he kept on. I just kind of looked down, and when I came up with my fist, I hit him so hard he went off the ground. But when that happened, the guards immediately noticed, and they come and blow a whistle, and they say, "Get down, get down, get down." So you get down, and then they come and handcuff you and walk you across the yard, a very shameful walk. And when they take you into the program office, they call you, and they put him in one room and me in another room. And they said, "You just got here. What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing wrong." I said, "The guy asked me where I was from. I told him where I was from. I, didn't want any problem, and he didn't like my answer." And so the guy laughed. They go to ask the other guy, and he had been an old timer. He said, "Oh, nothing. We just, I just meet the guy or something." He had been in prison long. He knew the ropes, what you're supposed to say. So they have to make you sign what is called a marriage contract. A marriage contract means that you can live together on the same yard in the same building and get along. And this guy is so interesting. He turned out to be a pretty good friend of mine after that. But in the word travels, you talk about, you heard the story, women gossip. It travels throughout the prison system, and people will not bother you anymore. They know that you know, they know that you won't wait for a gang, you won't wait for help, you just do what you have to do yourself. So that is my experience.
So the time that you had this encounter and you eventually became friends with this man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What was the time period, and who broke that ice? How did that come down?
Well, it happens almost next day. It happens immediately.
Immediately?
It happens almost immediately. Yeah, the next day or so. Yeah.
No,
It's
the next day or so?
it's a thing.
He's like, "You got me, man. I respect you. Let's be good friends."
I've never seen anything like it. You don't. It's like they're not mad at you. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. That is so, that's nuts. Okay. I
Like
love it. So there was another story in prison, and I don't want to overlook this because it was Ron and I have been able to hear a lot of these stories, and but stories can be really powerful because it gives us an experience of what that prison life was like. You mentioned that in the prison system, they use people who have been incarcerated in the past, and they come back and they teach. So it's like you're really getting the level of teaching, like when you're taking any kind of courses in prison. It's almost like at a very low level of education. So there's this one story and you were highly educated going into prison. So, you have this one story where you were in a class and it was a former inmate who was teaching the class, and he was wrong with some of the information that he was presenting. And
no, he wasn't. Yeah.
tell us that story real quick, because it's
I
like a
was
powerful story, but what a learning.
I was assigned as a TA, a teacher's assistant, in the reentry class, and the instructor, Mr. Epps, was a former. He was a, what do you call it, where you put the paper boards up in construction. But the state will take anyone with any kind of skills to work in a prison, because who goes to college to work in a prison? So anyway, in 2006 or 2007, I think, everything was going to be on the metric system. They were making a transition. And I remember I was putting this formula on their blackboard and was teaching the class, and I was sitting in my little desk in the back, and I realized he was teaching it wrong. And so I didn't say anything. We take a break usually around 9:15 in the morning. And so he took the break and dismissed the class to go out for 15 minutes. I stayed in class, and I went up and I said, "Mr. Epps," I said, "that's not quite the way that works. That formula is wrong." I said, the conversion goes like this." So he asked me, he said, "Well, put it on the board and show me." So I did, and I showed him and said, "See, now this is the answer there." He turns to me, he would always call me Don. He said, "Inmate, I am the teacher. Do not ever correct me." I said, "Yeah, but that's wrong." He said, "I am the teacher. Do not correct me." So I said, "Okay, Epps, you're right." So I go back to my desk, get my little stuff, fold up. I go over to the program office and see a lady by the name of Miss Leonard. Miss Leonard was the CC, we call Correctional Counselor 2, CC2. And I told the sergeant I want to speak to her. And so he said, wait over there and she'll come out. And he took my ID card into this. I entered. She came out and said, what's on, Brian? I said, I can't work with that. And she kind of smiled. And I said, he's trying to teach something he doesn't know about it. I wanted to help him. And he told me he didn't don't correct him. I said, I can't be a part of that. So she laughed again. She said, well, you have to work somewhere because you're a lifer. I said, well, find me something else. She said, the only thing I have right now is a porter's job. That means like you empty the trash in the dorm. I said, I'll take it. So I got the job as a porter, and which is nothing but empty trash cans in the building. But it's what they hire anybody to teach these classes, and they're ill qualified. I'll give you another example. There was they had a tour coming up from people from headquarters, and this one they call it ABE 3 or ABE 2. They wanted to make flags and put some stuff on the board to show the people that quote unquote they were doing something. So we helped another guy, and I helped this. I think his name was Callie or something like that. And we put these up there, and so that it was impressive, but it was all fake. That's why I say the CDC is whoever elected our governor has got to take a close look at where all this money is being spent and how it's being just wasted on trying to fool people. That's all it is, just fooling people that you're doing something. There's another incident and another class I was involved in. One of the instructors came to me and said, I have to spend $50,000 of my budget for books by this afternoon. $50,000. She said to me, you read a lot. Take this list, pick out, spend $50,000 and buy some books for this classroom and give it to me this evening. So I looked at the list. I bought some pretty good books. Some with, obviously I read a lot of sports books and things, history books and things, but that's just a smidgen of the waste that goes into the CDC. And I remember when they brought in new law books, they brought in computers that had the law on them. With you can look it up online, and they had all these brand new legal books that hadn't even been opened. They took these darn things and just threw them in the trash can, where any law firm would have paid $100,000 for them or more.
Waste and abuse.
Just and so it's just.
How many books did you read?
This is great.
Can you quantify that?
Pardon?
How many books did you read while you were?
Oh man.
Besides the Bible over and over.
Well, oh man, these 20 or more, and I would get, I had the Wall Street Journal, I would get the LA Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, then other magazines.
So
all I did was
intellectually sharp.
Yeah, that's why when I got out of here, I wasn't that dense. I just didn't learn the computers and things like that.
Like the smartphone. Think about the technology when you got out. The smartphone.
I'm still lost on it. I remember my daughter bought me a phone the first day on the way home, and I was trying to hold it up there. It's still
amazing.
The telephone.
Don, you mentioned that, in your conversation with one of the women leaders in prison, that she says, Don, you're a lifer. You're a lifer, right? So, Don, the reality was you were given a sentence. Was that sentence for life in prison?
Yeah, my original sentence was 15 years to life. So you're considered a lifer if you have a life tail on the end of it. If you've got 25 to life, 50 to life, you have a life sentence basically. anything. Now, after 15 years, theoretically, if you kept your nose clean and did everything, you should be paroled. But parole is another, just parole is a joke. And only two states have politicized the parole system. That's California and Oklahoma. And where the governor has final approval on parole, which is wrong in the sense that that's a fundraising tool for the governor, and secondly, it throws politics into a person's life. Politics in there at all.
Yeah. So what happened at 15 years? When you had 15, did you go back to court and did they offer you a plea?
I went to my first parole hearing. I was eligible for parole after I'd been in 7 years.
Okay.
Actually, I had at 2 years. I had what they call a document hearing, which you eligible could be parole there. That's after 2 years, and then I told them again that I was innocent and I would not plead or do anything. Then my first real parole hearing was in 5 years, and the commissioner was named Biggers, Archie Biggers, I'll never forget him. He gave me a 4-year denial, and his thing was that he says they query you about they retry you on your case. They go through the drowning, what Posey said, what everyone said, what the sheriff said, what the district attorney said. And he, to his credit, he was the only one I think was on. He said, Mr. Bohana, I don't know whether you did this or not, but I give you 4-year denial because that's customary in your first trip. So I accept that. But where it got dicey, I remember a hearing I had, and the commissioner was, the last name was Cassidy. I think her first name was Agnes. This lady told me, she said, I know you did this to Mr. Bohana. This is in the transcript, not what I'm making up. She says, I want you, when we get done here, to go get in a dark room in your building and figure out why you did this and be prepared in your next hearing to tell us why you killed this girl. I said, hell will freeze over before ever I did something I didn't do. But it got worse than that. There was a commissioner by the name of Peter LeBon. Peter LeBon was supposed to be a psychiatrist. Incidentally, all these commissioners were showing off for the Jackson family because they're sitting right there beside him. But Peter LeBon was just really outrageous. He, from his perch in front of you, he takes his finger and points at me. He says, Mr. Bohana, I know you did this. And then he looked at the Jackson family. He said, I know you did this. And I said, I just looked at him with blank stare. And then he said, when are you going to tell us the truth? And I said, Commissioner, I've told the truth and I'll say nothing else. And so that was his thing. I had another commissioner by the name of Roberts. He was a former sheriff, and I think Riverside or either Redlands. I think it was Riverside sheriff. He was appointed to the board. This guy was so enamored by the Jackson family that he just was, when they came in, he just ushered them to their seats. But the thing of it is, what really was, Tom Nolan represented me on this particular hearing. And after they went through and accused me of killing Dolores and reading all these things that were written in the newspaper and so forth, they go what they call take a break to deliberate on the decision. This guy was so anxious to get back to placate the Jacksons. Like Tom and I, you sitting in the chairs in front of the podium where the commissioners are. He came in the door and he passed me and he looked at Catherine Jackson and one other Jackson family. And before he could get to the podium, he says, "You're not going to be paroled today." Now he could have, that's fine, but he could have waited to at least call the meeting to order and look me dead in the eye. But he had to do that. He couldn't hold it, like he had to go to the bathroom so bad. He couldn't hold it. He had to get it out. And
hold his water.
yeah.
Gee whiz. It's just,
before he even gets back to his seat.
yeah.
I mean, there's another Richardson. Her name was Richardson.
Mhm.
I had a party when Jim Rosser was elected to the California State University, became the first Black president. Dan Toller, who was on the board of trustees, and I think it was Dempke, was the superintendent of higher education in Sacramento. They wanted to have a welcome for Dr. Jim Rosser and his wife. So they asked me what I hosted at my house, in which I said, okay. So I had this over there, and there were pictures taken. So, in other words, Richardson got all these pictures, and her whole thing was, I see you have an enormous big bar at your house. You have a big room there for, what does that got to do with Dolores being drowning? What does that got to do with it? And I explained, I said, I was hosting a party for the chancellor and Dempke and also Jim Rosser. But she was more concerned about the size of my house than Dolores drowning. This is the kind of hearing I had. And then in that particular one, the one with Roberts, he asked the guard to remove Tom Nolan from the hearing because Tom was protesting and for me that I should be heard, and he didn't. They don't like that.
So tell me, why were you paroled after 25 years? I mean, if your sentence was
that's a good one. I had a parole hearing in I think November. No, October, November of 2020, 2021, yeah. And I was denied parole again. And I was denied by this commissioner who was using words like my criminogenic behavior. Criminogenic, I've never heard these words before. And then, so I was represented by Ellen Eggers, who represents a lot of people in difficult parole situation. I got her through Tom and someone else, I forgot who it was. So Ellen represented me at this hearing, and she said, this is all BS. So what she did, let's see, this was in 22. What she did, she waited. This decision is not final until 120 days after the hearing. She waited to the 110th day and filed for an en banc hearing. But in also doing that, she had to go through word by word by word on each and every page where the commissioner just said things are wrong and just everything. So then I was granted a en banc hearing. Now, an en banc hearing is different than a regular parole hearing. You actually control that hearing. So what happened when Ellen called Tom Nolan, a couple of my clients, client up in China, a client in England, and a couple of clients I had in on the East Coast. I don't remember right offhand. And then my daughters, my brother, I think Tom Nolan, and other people like knew in Los Angeles. And all of them told the story of how I was railroaded and falsely accused and falsely convicted. And even Dr. Bodden got involved with that. So that hearing, my ex-wife went to the hearing, Don and Marla, my brother, they all flew up. They had to fly up to Sacramento on their own dime. I didn't go because I would have had to spend about $1,500 to have 2 guards escort me, and I didn't feel that they didn't need my contribution because I accept what I said, and it would be nothing I could say. So at the end of the day, Ellen called me and said, "Guess what? They have reversed all of your denials for petition for your parole hearing. All they reversed, and they've ordered a new hearing in 30 days." I said, "Well, Ellen, they can't do that." And the reason why, I said, the law and the statute says they have to give the other side 30 days. And she said, "You're right." So they gave the 30 days. And so I had a hearing on December the 29th, 2022. And obviously the same commissioner who said I was a threat to society and shouldn't be paroled voted that I should be paroled, that I was no longer a threat. Now, what changed in 30 days, 40 days? Nothing. So then the other wrinkle in this, normally it's 150 days before you're released. In other words, say if I'm found suitable, say January 1st for round figures, then I should not get out before May, the end of May. 2 weeks after my hearing, I got a summons to go and start parole processing. They had me out of there when 40 days. And people said, "How in the world did that happen?" Because they knew that they were wrong in the first place, and they absolutely knew that at some point in time I would be coming after them too. So that's how I got parole. I was denied parole. My next parole date was set for 2024. That's what theoretically how it would be the next parole date. Now, then the interesting thing, they said I would have to go to a halfway house. I said, "I'm not going to go to a halfway house and be around a bunch of people, drunks and drug addicts and gang. I'm not going to do that." I said, "I'll stay here at parole." I said, "Either that or I'll go to my daughter's house." And they asked me where Donna lived. I told them. And so they sent someone out to visit her house. And then they came back and said, "Oh, well, okay, you can parole there."
Wow.
Parole to her house in Westlake Village. And I've been on the Westlake Village since. Now, the other interesting part of that, when my parole officer came out the very next week, and then he came out the next week, and they give you this urine test, and I told him, I said, "You better save that and sell it on eBay because it's something valuable." And so, then the next month, they just stopped coming. And then, so then he would call me. So I really didn't have a tough time with the parole officers. He would come there, and he'd be there less than 3 or 4 minutes. It was just something for him to drive from Los Angeles to Westlake Village to put in his mileage chart or something.
Yeah.
That's how I came up on this. They stopped this urine test and all that other nonsense.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. Oh gosh. Don, tell us what happened the moment you went from prison to freedom. What was the ride home? What was that first connection with your children? Can you walk me through that day
Yeah.
when you set your foot on the ground and said, "I am free"? What did you feel? What was that
Yeah,
experience?
I can do that. Yeah. Uh, when the processing, pro processing out starts around 6 in the morning, and generally you're out by 7:30. So I took myself over to they call it R&R, report and release, and so they put you through a lot of things. They give you make sure it's you because they don't want to release the wrong person. So that took about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then they give you any medications you need, give you that, and they give you the little card with $200 on it, and then you eventually go to the door. And I must admit, when I first opened the door and walked out, I literally cried. Um, and then I saw my daughter, and she ran over to me, and we got in the car, and I couldn't believe it, and it's been very, very emotional now,
Yeah.
because uh, it was raining that day, I forget, but
Mhm.
I didn't even notice the rain. It was just so emotional, the ride from the prison, and it took me a long time to realize it. And then I would see the cars passing by, and I remember Donna wanted to stop and get something to eat, and I said, "No, I don't want to stop. Let's just go right to our house." So we went right to our house, and it was just, it's still very emotional, because you knew that your life had been taken away from you unjustly, and then you start figuring out, now I got to start getting it back. So I my immediately thing was, I think I called my brother, and called a couple of friends and told them I was out. And then Donna, Marla came down the very next day and brought me some clothing and phone and other stuff. Uh, and so I just started acclimating back into society. At the time when I got out, Sheila wasn't as bad with dementia, and so she understood, and she and I talked normal, and
Mhm.
so it took me a day or so. I remember getting in the shower with a shower by myself. It was just awakening, and then sitting down at a table and eating. I wasn't so much wanting to go out. I just wanted to eat at home, not just going out. Donna is the type, she likes to go out to fancy restaurants, which we eventually did. But I was just so thrilled to be at home that I didn't care about going out to eat. I was
Don,
very good.
yeah, do you have any PTSD regarding the living incarcerated for 25 years, having to look after your shoulder sometimes, showering with other people,
Mhm.
the clanginess of the cells, the noise of the bars. Does any of
Oh
that
yeah,
affect you?
yeah, yeah. You have that because it's in prison. You always want to make sure who's surrounding you. Even now, if I'm out, uh, not gonna let somebody get real close to me, because you're trained. If somebody gets too close to you, you subject be stabbed. Now, that didn't happen to me, but you're very mindful of your surroundings, and that's something I don't think I'll ever get over. And then using, you know, to be able to use a restroom by yourself without 10 other guys sharing stalls around you, being able to shower, being able to eat. Yes, you have PTSD because these things, for 25 years, if you do the same repetition day in, day in, day out, it doesn't leave you real fast. It stays with you. And you're very mindful. You think back on it, and then you try to forget it real fast. When in actuality, you never forget it because it's there.
Mm. Don, how did your family hold up? I mean, here they are, the first time they've been able to hold you, be with you, break bread with you, reconnect with you, experience you as their dad, and just even Sheila, I'm sure, yeah, ex-wife, but great relationship with her still. How did your family hold up under this duress?
Well, yeah, it was more difficult, I believe, on Donna than it was on Marla, although it was difficult on both. And that's because Donna stayed with me all of her life. From even after the divorce, she was with me. And so at the time when I was convicted, as an example, the day I was convicted, she left Los Angeles and no one knew where she was almost 2 weeks, but she was in Las Vegas because she knew I knew a lot of people there and they were looking out for her. Then she finally got herself together, and then several months later, she and Marla emptied out my house and ended up putting it up for sale, although it was literally paid for, but we needed the money. Investments were going crazy. Legal fees were trying to get lawyers involved, and everything was very expensive. But after the kids got a routine where they can maintain themselves and then communicate, we would talk at least once or twice every day, and then Donna and Marla and Sheila would come to the prison every week to visit me. Now they would have to drive from Westlake Village all the way to Blythe. That's almost to Arizona, I guess it is. But they would make that trek every week to visit, and I would sometimes tell them, "Don't come, I'm okay," but they would come just anyway. So it was difficult on them. It was difficult on Sheila because Sheila would come out sometime by herself, and then when she was diagnosed in 2014 with coming down with dementia, she would hire a driver, and at this time I'm in CMC, and a driver would drive her out to visit me if the kids didn't come. They couldn't come that week or something like that. So we stayed pretty much closed, locked in. When they came, sometime Marla would have some issues that she needed advice on in the business field that she was in. I would help her figure out when she was getting a master's at SCI. She would send me some of her projects, and I would try to advise her on it. So we kept straight. It wasn't like I disappeared. Probably a day didn't go by that I didn't talk to one of them, either Donna, Marla, or Sheila. I mean, since the time I was in prison.
Incredible, just incredible. One of the things we didn't touch on, Don, is you suffered a stroke when you were in prison.
Right.
And so when you left, you had to navigate through that. So
what year was that? Describe.
Tell us about
Yeah. Okay, I get in describe. The morning I had the stroke, I remember I was up late in the evening around 10 or 11 o'clock. There were two guards. One of them, I can't remember their names, but they were always into politics. One of them was a total Rush Limbaugh fanatic and also Hannity and the other conservative. And we would always talk politics up to the wee hours of the night. I think I told you I was a porter, and so my job was emptying the trash can. So when I finished it, I would just sit around and we would talk politics and stuff like that. So the night when I had the stroke, I'd gone to bed and I got up that morning and I walked to there was on a Sunday morning, I walked to the restroom and was going to brush my teeth and I tried to turn the water and my hand wouldn't move, my right hand. And then I couldn't understand and I had no control over it. So then I walked back to my bunk and then I got on bed and I walked back in there and I said, why can't my hand work? And so then it so happened I went down to the podium because I was living upstairs, and I told this guard, I don't remember, I said, something's wrong with my hand. I can't get it to work. And so I had it sit on the top of his kind of little desk, and when I moved it, my hand just fell down, plop. And he said, wow, what's wrong with that? So he said, let me call the medical because I couldn't control my right side of my body. So I walked back upstairs and then I started getting the dry heaves. And so then the medicine EMT came up there and they said, we'll take you and see what's wrong with you. So he took me downstairs on a stretcher. And then they took me to Palo Verde Hospital. I'll never forget it. And I got there, and they put this thing around me to give me a CAT scan or something. And they said, it looks like you've had a stroke. And there's a medication called TP3 that reverses the stroke, but you have to take it within an hour, I think, of the stroke. And it reduces the clot. So he called another doctor and say they want to give him a TB3 shot, and he said, "Well, when did he first have the stroke?" And I vaguely told him a time when I felt it, and then he said, "Well, the problem is if it's too late, this could kill you, this med." So I asked him. I said, "Would you call my daughter and let me ask her to look it up and make a decision whether I want to take the chance of killing myself?" So he did call Marla. She looked it up, and she said, "Yeah, there could kill you." And I said, "Well, I'm gonna have him give it to me just anyway." So then, when I made the decision, they said, "Well, it's too late. We're going to take you to San Diego to Alvarado Hospital, and we're going to fly you there." So they called I chartered a plane. They took me over to Lindbergh Field. Now, I have been in and out of Lindbergh Field 50, 100 times because I had my own airplane I could fly. And by the time I got in the plane, I just went blank. I didn't remember a thing. I didn't remember taking off. I didn't remember landing. The next thing I remember was the next morning, there was a lady in the room trying to rock me to wake up, to get up, to walk to the restroom. And then she told me that I had a severe stroke, but they're going to do an MRI and determine the extent of it. There was a doctor named Dr. Evans was the neurologist or whatever. Yeah. So he had the MRI. Then he came. He says, "Well, you had a severe stroke. The good thing is that it didn't damage any of your cognitive ability. You will have difficulty learning to walk, but other than that, you're going to have a fairly decent recovery. Your you're not going to be slobbering and all this, but the walking is going to be problematic. And I said to myself, I'm going to learn how to walk. So I stayed in Alvarado for probably a month and a half or 2 months. Then they transferred me back to the prison, to the infirmary. And I was there for about 6 months. I remember the first time I had a visit, the time I got back to the unit, they rolled me to the visiting room on a wheelchair. And my daughters were both crying. And I said, no, don't worry, don't cry. I said, I'm going to be walking again. And so I made a determination I was going to learn how to walk. And I started holding on to a fence in the infirmary yard. And at first it would take me an hour and a half to go around the yard. Then it would take me an hour. Then it would take me 45 minutes, and a half an hour, then 15 minutes. And pretty soon I was pretty much traversing the yard. And then I asked to my unit. And then I continue learning to walk. And that's where I am right now.
Incredible. So
I left
me,
on,
you still have some mobility issues.
yeah.
What year was that, Ron?
Pardon me?
What year?
2010. 2000, January 24th, 2010.
Okay.
Okay, so it was kind of halfway in.
Yeah.
Halfway in. So, Don, it says so much about you. I mean, you get on the train, you get to where you need to go. You're such an example of tenacity, of perseverance, of long suffering. But in the thing about you, it's the more Ron and I have gotten to know you, and those that just love you, they're like, there's not a bitter bone in his body. He's not bitter. He's not resentful. He doesn't want to pay back wrong for wrong. Like, you do not want others to go through what you've gone through.
That's where I'm at.
To be held accountable, because justice must be served. That's where we are right now in this country. We're all demanding that the waste, the fraud, the abuse, the corruption is exposed, and that people are held accountable.
That's where we are. That's where that's what I'm all about. Me going around being bitter, that doesn't solve anything. Doesn't solve anything.
That's right. That's right. Ron. Oh, Don, Ron, we can't hear you.
Ron,
There you go.
Yeah.
I had myself mute. What is your biggest goal moving forward?
my biggest goal moving forward, I want to see this case expanded throughout the country. People understand what happened to me, dissect what happened to me, read the papers what happened to me, and make sure it never happens to anyone again. That's the only thing I'm about now. It's not about, the past is the past. I can't undo that. But what I can do is make sure, the best of my ability, it never happens to anyone else.
That's right. That's right. And Don, if you could sit down right now with the Jackson family, with the DA, with your former attorney, with all of those that turned a blind eye to justice and rode on the coattails of your conviction, what would you say?
Well, first and foremost, I think one of the things I regret in my trial is that we excluded the Jackson kids from hearing my testimony. I wish I would not have allowed my attorney to make that decision. I would have preferred them hearing my testimony from me. instead of what they were being fed by the media and by the Jackson family. At some point in time, I still look forward to the opportunity to sitting down with them and letting them know really what happened with their mother. I thought I had a reasonable relationship with our boys. I remember one time we never talked about it, but Dolores had asked me to go out. The kids were playing baseball at Balboa Park. And I said, oh, let's go out there. I like baseball. And I ended up playing an inning or two ball with them. So, it's just fun. So I regret them not hearing my testimony. If I would sitting down with Harlan Braun, Patricia Titus, I would ask them point blank, why? Just tell me why. Whatever, if you needed the money or if you needed this, that, just tell me why you did it. And I can forgive you, but I want to know why you did it. What was so important? Maybe Titus said, well, I was trying to get ahead in my career. Just tell me why you did it. I'd like to know from Oxman. Oxman has almost has buyer's remorse, because when he made the statement that we didn't think he'd be in prison that long. Who is a we? That the Jacksons? That the sheriff? Is that Titus? Is that Pulte? Or who is it? Who's the we? I'd like him to tell me who the we was. Again, I'm not going to carry bitterness. That's not who I am. But I would like to ask them, just tell me why. Maybe you felt that you needed this career-wise. That's okay. Just tell me why you did it, so I know you won't do it again.
And I think it's really incredible that your family.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don. I think it's really incredible. It's very loving, supportive. Your family visited you every weekend. That shows how much they love you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that helped you. It helped you for a quarter of a century, 25 years.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Very, very much so. Very much so.
Come on. So good. So good, Don. So, Don, you've filed in court. Your attorneys are on top of this case right now. Why don't you tell us about the filing and then your call of action to every single person who is in that court filing?
Yeah. Well, yes, I really, yesterday we filed in Department 107, Los Angeles Superior Court, the same court that I was convicted in. And my goal and my want and my call is for each and every one who participated in this manufactured wrongful conviction be held accountable to the highest standard of the law. In other words, if it requires giving up their law license, they should never have had a law license to do what they did. If it requires being barred from running for political office, they shouldn't be barred from running for political office. This is not about Don Bohana. It's about people throughout our country, throughout our 50 states. It's corruption. When you take a person's life and play politics with it or have fun with it or try to get it promoted with another person's life, that is probably the lowest thing anyone can do. A person should not be able to use a law license to promote themselves. But that's exactly what happened in my case. I think each one that I name in this filing, the Patricia Titus, the Lori Jones, the Gavin Newsom, the Morris Jones, anyone that had the Brian Oxmans, Harlan Browns, these people are bad people. This federal government needs to step in. Look at my case. The federal government give them permission to look at my case and go through it yourself and find out if there's any iota of evidence to convict me. The prosecution never offered a motive for why I was convicted. Never offered a motive why I would even injure or hurt Dolores Jackson. I only knew Dolores. We knew each other maybe 6 or 7 weeks at most. Most of the time I was traveling and doing business, and she was traveling too. Why would you invite somebody to your house that you've known for 6 or 7 weeks and kill them? Please tell me that. When all the other people I've known would never say, never even think of that. The other interesting part of, I did not live under a rock. Of all, I did date a lot. Yet they could not find one person, not one girl that I've dated from high school, grammar school, college, adulthood, to come and say one negative thing about me. Moreover, I gave my attorney, Harlan Brown, a list of very prominent people who knew me, including the police chief, Bernard Parks, to come in to testify of my character behavior. He called no one, and the prosecution knew I knew these people. It wasn't like someone I'm going to have Joe Smoke come and offer a good tidings for me. So I would hope at the end of the day, the federal government takes a close look at the Los Angeles County criminal justice system, because right now it is broken and it needs repairing, and I don't think the mechanics that are working in there can repair it.
Don, so good. Don, how does it feel to get your story out?
Great. It's something I've been looking for 30 years.
And Don, your call of action to all of America, to the entire country, to beyond. What's your call to action for people listening to your message today?
I want people to listen to this and take seriousness of the wrongful conviction and make sure that your criminal justice system works as it is. Each and every one I've named in this program needs to be investigated, needs to be held accountable for what they did. Now, if they didn't do anything, they'll still be proven that. But I tell you, everything I've said on this program is backed up by independent, third-party written evidence. You don't have to believe anything I said. Just ask for the documents. Everything is backed up by independent, third-party written evidence, and most of it, 99% of it, is on the government stationery. They were so sloppy in putting this together because they thought I would never figure it out. But to their credit, I didn't figure it out until 2014 because I had to use my own resources, my family, friends, etc., to find this out because no one was offering anything. And then when we found it out, the conviction review boards just turned it off and said, well, we're not going to look at it. So my call is look at your criminal justice system, particularly in California, and hopefully the federal government will step in and take a closer look at it. Be it Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever, it needs to be done.
Don Bohana, you stood on your innocence for 25 years. Today, the truth is finally being heard. As you said, I want every person who helped put blah, 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 blah. We're going to redo that. Hold on. Sorry. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, sorry. All right, we're going to pause it And I'm not going to pause it. I'm just going to pick it up from here. And so edit, cut. Kim, go back and cut that. Okay, fantastic. And Don Bohana, you stood in your innocence for 25 years. Today, the truth is finally being heard. As you said, I want every person who helped put me away to be held accountable so no other innocent father has to endure what my family and I have suffered. For our audience and our listeners, the full petition, evidence summary, and press kit are now available. The memoir, Road to Vindication, is coming soon.
Kim and your audience, this is not merely a case of wrongful conviction. The evidence now before the court reveals a coordinated effort to subvert justice.
If you're listening and you've ever been silenced, railroaded, or had your power taken, like Don Bohana, or in any other way, this is your moment. It's time to stand up and speak out, to take your power back. I want you to share this episode, support what we're doing right now, support getting the word out there, and support declaring that Don Bohana is proven innocent and will hold everybody who's been involved accountable. We, the people, must demand justice. Demand that every complicit name be disclosed and that systematic safeguards are put in place so this never happens again. Don Bohana, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you from Ron and from myself for trusting us with your truth.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you and Ron, Kim and Ron, for this and the opportunity to get the truth out finally after 30 years. This is a dream come true. And I truly thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Wow. I got to tell you, we are the ones that are blessed to be able to share this message and to be able to have been with you on this journey of hearing your story. So we are Don Bohana, Kim Yater, and Ronald F. Owens Jr. Ronald, it has been a joy co-hosting with you today.
It has been a joy co-hosting with you, and how we met is truly God. Perhaps we'll be able to tell that story one day.
We are definitely going to tell that story. So to our audience, this has been the Take Your Power Back show. Never surrender. Never stay silent. It's time for we the people to take our God-given power back. Wow, what a journey. Don Bohana, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for your 25 years of strength, your refusal to break, and for finally telling your full story. Ronald, thank you for being part of this important moment. To every single person who watched all 3 parts, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for your time, your attention, your shares, your likes, and your subscriptions. You are the reason these stories get told and the reason the truth gets a chance to breathe. This concludes our exclusive 3-part series interview with Don Bohana. But the fight for his freedom is not over. We're holding on to hope and standing for justice. And I know so many of you watching are holding on to that same hope that the court will finally issue a declaration of Don's actual innocence and fully exonerate him. We will be back again after August 24th when you hear from Don and his case verdict. If this series moved you, angered you, or inspired you, please do one more thing for us right now. Like this video, share it with everyone you know, and subscribe to the Take Your Power Back Show. Go to takeyourpowerbackshow.com. That's takeyourpowerbackshow.com for every episode and all the truth we continue to bring. Thank you for walking this journey with us. This is Kim Yater with the Take Your Power Back Show. Stay strong, stay empowered, and keep taking your power back.
Thank you for joining us for the Take Your Power Back Show. As Peak Performance Breakthrough Coach Kim Yater speaks to other freedom-loving Americans that are making a positive impact in the world by standing in truth amid adversity. Listen in weekly and learn how to take your power back in your freedom, in your personal and professional life, in technology and creativity, and in your faith. Be encouraged, be inspired, be transformed as you step into your power and take action in your leadership and allow your voice to be heard. Together, let's take your power back. To sponsor and support the Take Your Power Back Show, go to takeyourpowerbackshow.com. That's takeyourpowerbackshow.com and take your power back.